Hi, my name is Jen Poeppert, and for my Capstone project, I decided to do an analysis on Johnson & Johnson. As you can see by the charts over here, Johnson & Johnson, they are a member of the medical industry and compete in 3 different business segments. This is how they've been rated against all the competitors in their industry. They currently, as you can see, lead in terms of respect, diversity, and integrity, where there is also room for improvement in areas such as agility, innovation, and collaboration. In 2018, a Forbes article actually came out and said that Johnson & Johnson struggled to understand the market of their millennials because they didn't realize that they preferred online shopping and they wanted products with natural ingredients. So my recommendation for Johnson & Johnson is to improve their innovation system within the company. Now here you will see I'm going to do a full company analysis to help support why I believe their innovation is something they need to improve upon at the company. So to start with the history of Johnson & Johnson, they were founded in 1886 by brothers Edward, Robert, and James Johnson in New Brunswick, New Jersey in 1886. So they've been going 138 years strong. As I said, they compete in the medical industry and compete in 3 different market segments: pharmaceutical, medical devices, and consumer health goods. They currently are made of 2 different divisions: innovative medicine and medtech. They are currently a Fortune 500 company, and their CEO at the moment is Joe Quandato, who is seen right here. Industry and competitors, they currently compete in the medical industry, as I mentioned. They're top 5 in each of the segments in which they compete. The pharmaceutical industry was said to have made $1.6 trillion in the last 20 years. Medical devices was valued at $565 million in 2022, and consumer health goods was valued at $127.6 billion in 2022 as well, in just the Americas market alone. Now, as you can see from what I found, these are the top companies within each segment, and Johnson & Johnson is currently not the number 1 company, but they are always in, like I said, the top 5 of each segment. And here's a list of some of their competitors, which I'm sure you're familiar with some of those names. I also did a pastel framework breakdown to understand all the outside factors that could affect them in this industry. In regards to political, they need to be aware of the environments in which they are entering into, be aware of any and all interference that the governments may play in their business, be aware of any antitrust laws, and be mindful of any working regulations for their future employees. In terms of economic, as with any industry and company, they need to be aware of interest rates and currency exchanges rates, because those can change in a matter of a moment or a day. Be aware of price stability, growth rates, and levels of employment. In sociocultural, they need to understand the culture and society in which they are operating. They got to understand what the people want and what they believe and the different attitudes they have towards certain things. They need to pay attention to the demographics which they work in, including sex, age, gender, religion, anything along those lines, and be aware of the educational level of the employees that they hire as well. In terms of technology, they need to understand the technology in which they are currently working with in the industry, and make sure to stay invested in the industry, in the technology, and make sure they stay ahead of the competition. In terms of ecological, the world becoming very eco-friendly and going green, there's a lot more environmental standards that they're going to have to be aware of in the upcoming, years. They need to be aware of any regulations regarding air and water pollution, and be aware of anything in regards to recycling, waste management, and climate change that could occur. In terms of legal, they must be aware of any antitrust laws against drug manufacturers, because this is very important in this division. They also need to have copyright, patent, and intellectual property laws to protect their property. Also need to protect their data so they do not lose that, and be mindful of any employment laws within places of the countries they work. So I also compiled the 5 forces model and used this to understand which threats are going to be high for Johnson & Johnson in this industry. The threat of new entrants is not significantly high, because you need to have significant financial backing for things such as R&D, production, and manufacturing just to be able to enter in, let alone compete in this market. So that's low. Power suppliers is also a low threat because, suppliers are going to want the contracts of these big manufacturing facilities and companies. So they will fight to get these contracts, and they might take on additional costs just to get these contracts. Same with the power of buyers. The threat is also low, I believe, because the buyers are going to want to maintain positive relationships with these companies so that they can continue to have the best products and shelves on their shelves for their clientele and their customers. The threat of substitutes is one threat that is considered moderate in this industry because customers have the option that they can purchase store brand name products if they do not want to spend the money on name brands. And then millennials and Gen Zers are starting to prefer all natural supplements and herbs instead of other products, but these can be pricey and harder to find, so that is sometimes not an option. So that's why this is only a moderate threat. And then the rivalry amongst existing firms. The government regulations keep firms from going in price competition amongst one another. And then all companies work to diversify and create their next best thing to always be one ahead of the other. So that's why this threat level is also moderate. The industry attractiveness, J&J alone made $93.78 billion in 2022, and they are considered one of the top places to work in the industry. They're also led by a strong and effective leadership group, and their CEO was actually ranked among top 10% of CEOs in Fortune 500 companies. Now, looking at the internal analysis, we are going to look at their missions and values. Their mission statement is led by a big written out statement they have called our credo, and that's been used for more than 75 years, and it helps in all the organizational decision making they do. Their values, they feel they have a responsibility to a variety of parties, including doctors and nurses, patients, parents, the communities in which they serve, the employees, and stockholders as well. So to figure out what their core competencies were, as you can see on the right, I completed a VIRO framework, which stands for valuable, rare, hard to imitate, and organized. So as you can see, value with their great financial backing, diversified portfolio of products, their great reputation, they are obviously very valuable. They are also rare because they have their own patents, readily available funding, and they operate, around the world, and that helps them get brand recognition. They're also considered hard to imitate because, their high quality is considered one of a kind, and many companies just can't replicate that on the spot. And they're also greatly organized in terms of finance and their distribution network, and their leadership team continuously keeps them on the right path. So in regards to what their core competencies would be, I would say it is corporate culture, innovation, and extensive collaboration with others. Now, as seen here, the company is currently has 16 members on their board of directors, including their executive chairman. The executive team is led by the CEO, Joe Quandato. There are also 8 others who take on the role of executive vice presidents, and these are people that are considered the heads of HR and research and development, as well as the 3 business segments in which they operate. Company has almost 142,000 employees, and they run as a decentralized structure of operation, meaning that they can make their own decisions at lower levels instead of waiting for upper level management. While that may be great because it gives them some freedom and faster decisions may be made, senior level management may be left out of the loop and communication may be lost. In regards to value chain activities, it is made up of primary and support activities. At Johnson & Johnson, their primary ones include supply chain management, operations, distribution, marketing and sales, and after-sales service. They also, their support activities include R&D, human resources, accounting and finance, firm infrastructure, information systems. They currently manage 97 manufacturing sites, and as you can see the breakdown, there are 32 in the U.S. alone, and the rest, or 65 of them, are outside of the U.S. I also work with a significant amount of suppliers and R&D associates as well. The competitive strategy that I believe they use is a differentiation strategy. That means that they want to create higher value for their customers than the value that their competitors can, while also maintaining cost. So they want to be able to create a great product while eating as much of the cost as possible so that they can provide the best product, the lowest cost product available for their customers. Now, in terms of methodology and diversification, they do use a vertical integration strategy, and I believe it's the forward vertical integration strategy because they bring their products closer to their customers by operating so globally around the world. In terms of diversification, I believe they operate in a product market diversification strategy because they operate in several different markets and they also serve in various countries as well. And they also, I believe, run on an unrelated diversification strategy because they do not rely on one item to bring in at least 70% of their revenue. So as you can see, this is the breakdown of their 3 segments as they are. And as you could probably imagine, Johnson & Johnson, you can consider them a conglomerate. So here is some financial data that I compiled for Johnson & Johnson over the last 5 years, and then I did a competitor financial analysis comparing them to Pfizer. As you could see from the financials, the revenues fell in 2023 compared to the prior 2 years, as well as COGS. I believe this is due to the fact that the industry is now back to working on post-pandemic levels instead of the pandemic hyped up levels that they were running on. In terms of profitability ratios, their return on invested capital was 21% in 2023. Their return on revenue was 41% in 2023, and their working capital turnover was 90%. And they definitely outperformed their biggest competitor, Pfizer, in 2023. I also completed a SWOT analysis. So as you can see, their strengths are pretty significant: strong brand recognition, diversified portfolio of products. They operate in over 60 countries, and they have a strong R&D and commitment to their corporate social responsibility. In terms of weakness, they have had some product recalls that have hurt them. There's also currency risk operating in foreign markets, and they need to be aware of patent expiration dates. In terms of opportunities available, they should develop more products to suit the elder generation as the baby boomers are starting to get older. Take advantage of any advanced technology that is available to be applied, such as, like telehealth that's available. They can incorporate some kind of FaceTime app online service, and they should also continue to merge and acquire other companies as well. They may also face threats like anyone in this industry, including regulatory legal risk, pricing pressures, increased competition from their rivals, and possibly supply chain disruptions. Now, in regards to ethics and human resources, they believe that ethics is the reason behind their long-term success. They currently operate on a code of business conduct and, believe that all levels of management and their employees should take ethics training every 2 years to make sure, they fall in suit with what the company believes. Their chief commercial officer helps oversees an enterprise compliance risk committee. And they also have a triage committee, which is led by the CCO as well, and they're responsible for investigating compliance-related issues and overseeing ethical dilemmas. So in conclusion, Johnson & Johnson, as you can see, they're structured very well, and it's helped them continue to be successful all these years of their existence. Their quality of their products are unlike anything else that are out there, and they're a favorite brand by many consumers. But I still believe, as I had mentioned before, there is room for improvement in their innovation development. I believe while their past is something to be proud of, they are still too focused on it, and they rely on the same few products to help achieve their continued success. So I believe by focusing on the future, they may be able to reach that number 1 spot in the business segment that they operate in. So maybe they can finally get that number 1 ranking that they so long desire. So that is my presentation. I thank you all for listening, and I hope you all enjoyed.